Hello. My name's Jo Holmes. I run an organisation called IiE Consulting. Thank you so much to Annalisa and team for inviting me to speak today to you. IiE Consulting is an environmental consultancy service. We're based and we work within the northeast of England. And I thought it would be a nice overview just to give you a bit of an idea of IiE Consulting as a company. And we are a supplier to Newcastle Hospital Trust and what we've done to meet the five-step programme and what we do to reduce our environmental impacts. So we're a micro organisation. We're only very small. We've been accredited to Investors in the Environment, which is a programme we deliver. We hold the North East franchise for Investors in the Environment, and we thought we'd better walk our talk and get that ourselves. So we are Investors in the Environment accredited, and that's been really useful because it's allowed us to identify what all our resource uses are, what our carbon footprint is, and put systems in place to reduce them. And then we were accredited by the national team in January, and we'll do that again next January. We also have applied to be a B Corp organisation. We're really committed to walking our talk here and evidencing that we're committed to reducing our environmental impact and how a small organisation and how that's achievable. So we're going through the very arduous B Corp accreditation process at the minute. What I would say is our Investors in the Environment accreditation has really helped us meet the B Corp requirement in terms of the environment bit. B Corp is a lot more holistic look at an organisation. It looks at you as an employer, what you do for society, and how you're looking after the environment. So it's quite difficult to go through the process, to be honest. But the Investors in the Environment made the environment bit a bit easier for us because we had all of that evidence to submit. We've also set quite an ambitious net zero target of 2030, and we've done lots of things to try and help us achieve that. So we've invested in solar, we have an electric company car, and we are looking at and have invested in insetting in terms of hedgerow and tree planting. So we're building that carbon picture at the minute, and we're using the Smart Carbon platform to help us do that. So we've been able to follow the five-step programme within the hospital. We've supplied them with all our carbon data. We've set our net zero target, and we have a carbon reduction strategy on our website. So we fulfilled the five-step programme for the hospital as a supplier. So it was just to give you an overview really of us as an organisation and how we've met that requirement to supply the hospital. Amongst other, we work with a lot of public sector organisations. And more importantly, this is what we do. We really feel like we should lead by example. So that's just an overview of IiE. So IiE as a consultancy, as I said, we hold the North East franchise for Investors in the Environment, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a minute. We work in across biodiversity action planning and delivery. We have written the 30-year biodiversity action plan for Newcastle Hospital Trust, for example, and we're working with other public sector organisations to baseline what their biodiversity metric scores are currently, and then look at ways and write plans in which they can develop that land. We're a delivery partner for Become Green Together, which is a really fantastic programme. We've just completed the pilots side of things for the National Lottery, and it's about supporting voluntary sector organisations to identify, measure, and then reduce their environmental impacts. And we've used Investors in the Environment as a delivery tool for that. And that's just been so well received. It really does give organisations that starting point. Where do they start with this massive agenda? How do they build those internal systems? How do they bring staff and volunteers along with them? And then how do they evidence it to funders, which is one of their key motivators for being involved in that. We're a delivery partner for Net Zero North East England. We deliver their land use and waste and resources planning groups, as well as we're working with them on trying to establish, which we'll be talking about today with Jess Cook, try and establish some sort of format for the public sector to measure and report their Scope 3 supply chain carbon emissions. So it's about, my real interest in that is about bringing along those smaller organisations who might be struggling with getting their head around this massive agenda and where they make a start for that. So and investors in the environment really is just a great key, a useful tool to help them. We run the North East Recycling Forum, which is 35 years old this year. It's a really well-established network of organisations interested in waste and recycling. And as you can imagine, the waste and recycling industry is unrecognisable to that was 35 years ago. And it's a combination of local authority waste officers, private sector waste companies, and some third sector organisations. And we hold quarterly networking meetings and share best practice. So it's just such a really useful, a great forum. We're a specialist advisor for Durham-based startups. We started working with them this year, which has been a really interesting look at how we can assist organisations right at the very start to set up sustainably, and also to promote the fact that they really need to do this if they want to be trading with the sector. They really need to be having a carbon reduction strategy. They need to be able to supply their carbon data. And so getting those organisations set up as we mean to go on, I think will be really valuable. So we're doing a whole programme of awareness raising events around what the opportunities are, what the threats are, and how they might do it. And then we're putting quite a few of them through investors in the environment as well to try and get those organisations set up with an environmental management system right from the start. And we've also done lots of other consultancy services, and we get involved in some weird and wonderful stuff. But we recently wrote the consultation plan for the South of Tyne and Wear local nature recovery strategy. And we're also building bids and project development work in other areas, looking at using the voluntary sector to deliver access to green space and all wonderful and weird stuff that we're getting involved in. So that's Genie Consulting. So investors in the environment, it's a fantastic tool in which to build an environmental management system, and it really does handhold organisations that are right at the very start of this journey. So it enables them to look at their organisations through that green lens, measure and gather data. We can't manage what we don't measure. Build that picture of their organisation through that green lens, and then put systems in place to reduce it over time. And the way it's been developed is a real staged approach so that it isn't overfacing. So any organisation can enter at any level. So if you've got a well-established environmental management system, you can enter there at the higher level. But if you're right at the start, it offers some really fantastic tools and resources. So it's not overfacing. We don't ask for too much right at the start. It's just about starting that process and building that picture for each, and each organisation is completely different. So it's a really valuable tool for organisations to use. It's applicable to any size of organisation. So we have a lot of smaller organisation members, particularly these voluntary sector organisations that have come through, real micro organisations, right up to NHS trusts, large education establishments, and councils. So it could be used on any scale, but it just gives that framework. And what's really valuable is the audit process right at the end of it's a 12-month program, and at the end of that you receive an audit, and it's that outside eye that's really valuable. It drives at the end because audits come in. It's a really valuable outside eye on the organisation. It's a really useful tool, more so for the larger organisations. The sustainability teams find it really useful to be able to feed up to senior management teams information that they might not otherwise be able to. So it's a really useful tool all around for organisations to really get into that continual development loop. And continual improvement is really important for environmental management. It's been a useful tool for organisations as well who are upskilling staff. For example, I know organisations that bring on new staff, we have a Green Champion course, for example, and we can help develop the staff along with the role. So we support them as much as we can in terms of training and resources, and then and one-to-one consultancy to try and help those staff gather the skills they need in-house to deliver their environmental management system. So it's a really great way and a really good pathway to get organisations thinking about net zero carbon emissions going forward. As I said, it's a staged approach, and this is really useful because it isn't overfacing for smaller organisations. So those that start at bronze, it's about establishing those baselines. It's about looking at those policies and gathering it and starting to implement some systems. Silver, we ask for more. We want more data. We're looking at starting we introducing travel plans. We're looking at introducing more data into what's being audited. And then green is even more established, and we're looking for those reduction targets to be met. All the systems in place, and it being embedded throughout the organisation and reported on an annual basis. So it's a really gentle introduction, and then as you go through, it's a holistic look at the organisation. And it really is a holistic look at, we try and encompass the whole breadth of sustainability. So it's around looking at appointing a green champion or champions, depending on the size of the organisation, looking at your policy, measuring those resources, looking at target setting, creating action plans that help the organisation meet those targets, look at your waste, look at travel, calculate a carbon footprint, complete additional environmental projects, which is trying to encapsulate a little bit more holistically that sustainable development goals element. So, and that could be around staff wellbeing or conservation, or there's lots of different examples of additional projects. And then communication, and communication is key. It's really important that everyone's brought along on this journey. The most successful environmental management systems really do have that team player element, and everybody's involved and invested in it succeeding. So it's really holistic, the how we go into it. So our work with Newcastle Hospital is twofold, really. One is we work with them through investors in the environment, and we've supported new staff members coming in to build them and continue the work around their environmental management system. And we offer further consultancy support where necessary. We annually survey the sites for their biodiversity metric score, which just logs how the sites are developing in terms of biodiversity. We've developed an action plan, and we're starting to deliver that now. So these lovely pictures on the screen show we've put a pond in at the Freeman, for example. That's brand new. We've done some tree planting, we've planted hedges, we've put in bulbs, we've talked to the estates team about grass cutting or not grass cutting, to try and leave some areas a little bit wilder and get some wildflowers. We've put in different habitats, bird boxes, bat boxes, hedgehog houses, for example. And then we're also delivering a programme called Green the Grey, which is looking at the internal sites within the hospital, the courtyards, and how we can make those more attractive and user-friendly for patients and staff, because we recognise that access to nature is so important. So we've implemented a programme, we've done a couple of courtyards so far, where we've done a lot of planting and put some furniture in and things, just to try and encourage that access to nature. We've also put, just brand new again, some picnic tables for the outside area at the Freeman. And again, that's about trying to encourage staff and patients to use that outside space, because there is so much evidence that access to nature is good for mental health and physical health. So we're really trying to get them to use those sites as much as possible. And once the pond's more established, we're hoping to get patients and staff engaged in that and see the real benefits of the wildlife that will bring in on the site. So that's just an overview of some of the things that we're doing with the hospital, and how we as an organisation have been able to satisfy the 5-step programme as well. They're my contact details if anybody's interested in anything we do, or investors in the environment. Please let us know. But thank you so much. Thank you.